Hi, welcome to another episode of Hot Takes. I just want to point something out before we start. There, the books. Somebody pointed out that they were a squiff. They were not upright. So, they're upright. Hope that makes you happy. It was the work of a moment. Now, David Gauke. Heard of him? He is the sentencing czar. They do like that title in the Labour government, don't they? He's the sentencing czar who decides how people should go to prison. What's ironic, of course, is that he used to be a Tory. He jumped ship, crossed the floor, and has been promoted for it. Normally, when you jump ship, you don't get a promotion. Very rare. But he is there. He sits in, he's a minister, and he has these various opinions. Now, there has always been that thing about tough on crime, tough on the causes of crime. It was a Tony Blair mantra. And stiff sentences, harsh sentences, let's make sure people don't want to do it again, kind of thing. He's saying this should be relaxed. They should stop getting tough on crime and stop getting tough on the causes of crime and just accept that crime is going to happen and accept that we have criminals amongst us. And he says that prison should only be reserved for the worst people and that other things should be made available. He does not want to send too many people to prison, basically. He says it's costing us as a country, a nation, an absolute fortune. Now, firstly, no, we want to put criminals away for two reasons. One, of course, is as a punishment. You do the crime, you do the time. You're taken out, and that is your punishment, being removed from society. Second, of course, is a deterrent. If you see that, if I do that, I'm going to prison for 5 years, you don't do it. You know? Of course, there are always going to be people who do it, but that's they get their punishment. They go to prison for 5 years or whatever it would be. But he does also have a point that overly imprisoning does cost a lot of money. But if you do a time, if you commit a crime, you do the time, and you don't let them off to save a dime. You know, you're saving a small amount of money, but what cost to society? Now, I've said in a previous video, one option is ankle monitors, and you are restricted, so you're still in prison, but you're imprisoned within your own home, and you're only allowed to leave it to go on a route to, say, a job, or to go to meet your parole officer on certain days, and so forth. There is limited and allowable movement. You may be allowed to go to one local shop, for example. But if you go outside of your geographical allowance, or you go outside of your time zone, you're only allowed to leave the house between this hour and this hour, and so forth, then you're hoiked back in and you're sent back to prison. That is an option. And it gets the people who ought to be imprisoned, at least imprisoned within their own homes. They're paying for their imprisonment. And that's the other thing, charge them for the ankle monitor. It's what happens in the States. And I've mentioned that in a previous video as well. But, it seems very odd that this man, who as a Tory was firmly of the impression that send them all to jail, get rid of them, get them off the streets. That was his mantra then. Now his mantra is, let's let them out, let's not imprison them. It seems a lot has changed in the couple of years that he's jumped ship from the Tories to the Labour. Of course, again, he's so far away from these people, it's untrue. But he did say, it was in an interview on the BBC Today programme, and I've got a note of what he said here. He said, I think there is clearly going to be pressure on public spending, but in fact, to a large extent, that strengthens the argument that I'm making. Prisons are expensive. The ongoing cost of keeping somebody inside is expensive. And instead of mental health treatment or drink and drug addiction treatment, they're relatively cheap. He says our addiction to longer sentences is an expensive mistake. And that's very, very odd, considering his days in the Tory party, where he believed that long prison sentences were good and they acted as a deterrent to others, and it kept crime down because the criminals were away. Yeah, Odd, isn't it, how much he's changed? But I think if you ensure that the real bad uns, the heinous committers of crimes, or the committers of heinous crimes, are locked up for a long time and have full life terms for, what I'd say like child killers and things like that, or anyone who's killed more than once. Most murders happen as a result of a rage. People don't go out of an evening planning to kill someone. They end up killing someone. You do a long time. I don't believe in a life sentence for that. But if it's someone who's premeditated, going out and planning it, then yeah, full life. And if we can free up jails from minor stuff, I mean, is fraud worth a 3-year prison sentence when you can actually put the fraudster on an ankle tag, put him in his own home, and get him to pay for the privilege? That, I think, would be a better option. It's complex. It is undoubtedly complex, and there'll be arguments on both sides. I'm aware of the conflict inside me about this. Yes, I like jail. No, I don't think we should put people who commit non-violent crimes away. There's other options. But it's really what we want as a society and what we can convince our MPs to do. I don't know. It's a complex issue, but I'm pretty sure that the people out there in YouTube land will have ideas themselves and comments. So do absolutely let me know in the comments down below what you feel on this, and if you've got any ideas on a suitable, how can we put it, alternative to jail, alternative punishments. I'd like to see that. I think anyone who steals should be made to repay the value of the goods plus a small commensurate compensation to the victims, for example. Regardless of how that theft is, if it's actually physically stealing a proper good, embezzling money. I'm looking at you, Peter. You're not above this. Peter Murrell, that is, and there's things like that. People who commit acts of violence, no option. They go to jail. Complex, as I say. But also, it's the hypocrisy of this man, isn't it? David Gauke. That really just, grinds my gears. How can you go from an ex-Tory to getting promoted in the Labour Party? You'd think the people in Labour would be very wary of you. Anyway, let me know, of course, what you think. As I say, do hit the subscribe button. We're getting very close. I want to see if I can do a certain number, 100,000, by maybe July, I think. Possible. But only if people like you who haven't hit the button, yes, you know who you are, hit the button. Anyway, so the rest of you, thank you very much. Take care. Speak soon. Goodbye.